Okay, this is the advertising for right there. We're getting $10 off. We didn't post a sign. I told you about it. Another sign that I want you to believe in as you leave out of here. Health makes weight. Well, if you like what we say, then buy what we sell so we can continue to do it without getting corporate and sold out. Right? Just that simple. Am I on? Can you hear me on? I'm ready. Okay?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Today's lecture, it would be actually on June the 9th here at the Metaphysician, and I'm glad that most of you took time out on this busy Saturday to attend, is going to direct what is called teas. It's nothing that you want to drink. For the power of a crystal to really work for you, it must be made clear, crystal clear. For powerful teachings to really work for you, they must be made clear also, very clear. And there comes a time when a powerful teacher, to convey a message clearly, must utilize, analyze, detail, and summarize very clearly, and this is one of those times. To paraphrase a musical, this will be the start of something big, very big. We believe you'll want to be here, and we're glad that you are here to attain some understanding, some knowledge, and if you bought this tape, you understand, too, that what you're going to hear may stretch your senses. But remember one thing, there's no truth until you decide what truth is. The title of the lecture, T's, is Terrestrials, Extraterrestrials, and Aliens. The general explanation for aliens, terrestrials, and extraterrestrials is very easy. A terrestrial comes from the word terra, which is one of the old names for our own planet, which we now call Earth. Earth, seemingly, in what is called the League of Planetary Nations, and this is my own euphemism, if you would, has many names. Shan, Saros, Telos, Terra, many names. It depends on what intelligence is referring to it and what time in the far distant past of our planet that these intelligences either came here or helped to make history here, if you would. Either way, what happens on Terra may make Terra anything but firm. You've heard that thing, terra firma, a very firm grasp on the earth. We don't have a firm grasp on this planet. Not anybody sitting in any of these seats here. But also the instability, if you begin to understand the inner worlds, which we have tapes on that too, which show you that our planet is anything but solid, anything but a molten mass interior, which they lost a long time ago, no knowledge of, but at the same time prefer to teach it about that same foolishness about our earth when they know good and well it's not the truth. And of course we can always say this, the moon they have now proven is hollow. If the moon is hollow, how could the earth be solid? It's just plain common sense, it can't be. But we still get childish teachings from childlike people who don't want us ever to wake up to the humanity and the real man and woman that we're supposed to be on this planet. But that time is going very slow. As we review various kinds of so-called aliens and various kinds of extraterrestrials, we understand that a terrestrial is one who is now living upon the planet, can eat, breathe, and live in a suitable atmosphere, or can modulate it to suit his or her fancy as we grow in wisdom. An extraterrestrial is one who has had a sojourn either on this planet in the past, or is presently on a planet or some kind of a being body that can support life and looks somewhat like a terrestrial, usually a hominid bipedal, or in some way or another can be said to have some homage or respect for humanoid type bipedal life. 2 legs, 2 arms, truncation, and so on like this. An alien can be anything that's intelligent. And I repeat that very slowly because we could spend the next year trying to classify all kinds of aliens. Anything that's intelligent. That could be an alien. Whether that be a gigantic intelligence or minute intelligence, that can be an alien life form. It's been proposed at times through metaphysical study, and I want you to think about what I'm going to say, that if you pick up a handful of soil and you look at it under a microscope, first of all, then you dare look at it under an electron microscope, you have a whole world, a whole universe, a whole cosmos in your hands. And it's been said that anything that has been created by the Creator will have a chance to come into its intelligent consciousness. That is infinite. That is astounding. That is past understanding on my part. Comprehension, yes. Understanding, no. So I simply repeat that. Therefore, for those who would say that the earth is here and the cosmos spins around it for the edification, gratification, and wonderment of those people incarnate here, they've got to be out of it. Completely out of it. No ifs, no ands, no buts. I don't even ask them about the religion. I just ask about their consciousness. With that in mind, we could stay here for the next month. We don't have a month to give. But we will probably divide this into a 3-part series, this being Series 1. What I want to do, since you've had an excellent overview, thanks to Melody, and bearing with me a little, on the overall life forms in general and what they may be, I'm going to spend about 10 more minutes with that, and then I want to concentrate on what I call the Midwest connection, since most of us now live in the Midwest. I think you'll find that somewhat interesting, too. When we take a look at the various types of aliens it may be, I can only give you an estimate that some 29 different species of extraterrestrial aliens have been on this planet over the last 50 years. Some 13 of them presently come and go as they would, and 7 of them actually now live on the planet Earth. The governments, of course, say there's no such thing, and so therefore these statistics and so, which have garnered through various researches, again, from Matrix, and while we begin to record all the different areas. But metaphysical research, as you know, is what I've done in heaviness, again, almost exclusively for 42 years. And that was after, finishing college and doing some when I was still in undergrad school. So it's been a lifelong dream and research, and as long as you attend, and byproducts and others do, I'll be able to continue it that way. On September 24th, 1947, MJ-12 was created. It was a group of top military and scientists formed by President Harry S. Truman by executive order. And from that date on, executive order has just about begun to replace constitutional congressional action and law, because it now even bypasses or substitutes for congressional constitutional law in many cases and acts as a bypass. Interesting enough, that was 2 months after Roswell. Everybody focuses on Roswell as though that was the only time that maybe an alien life form, extraterrestrial life form, a UFO intelligence came down to Earth. That's like saying that maybe there's one grain on a beach that's 50 miles long. It's just that ridiculous to me. At the same time, some people still think Roswell was special. It was, but there's so many Roswell. And I have also a tape, 1952, when 16 UFOs were photographed over the White House of the United States. Chased, sought after, disappearing, coming back on the screen, so that by the 8th sortie, they didn't even scramble fighters over the Potomac. They just simply flew over the United States Capitol.
I showed that picture.
Oh, did you today? Oh, okay, we're on the same wavelength. I do that anyway. All right. MJ-12 still exists, so who appoints its successors? It's a logical question to be raised. And what is it doing? It was investigating Roswell, now that we're 60 years hence. In general, classifications of extraterrestrials and aliens and those who maybe were not indigenous to Earth can be broken up into various forms, and I'm going to simply run through it by saying aliens categorized by general motivations. Call one the preventors, trying to help us from hurting ourselves or the Earth, and helping to alleviate and reduce some of the problems that we've created for ourselves, environmentally, geologically, socially, so on and so forth. I simply classify them as the preventors. Number two, the rescuers. Usually here to harvest or to help us if we have a big disaster that we can't prevent. In some cases they do, but not in the long run. Number three, I call the scavengers. They're here to pick up the salvage after we blow ourselves up. I even call them inheritors. Next classification, the observers. They're here to spectate or to learn or just look on. They don't care what happens. It's almost like a bullfight or somebody monitoring a riot. You just look and say, isn't that interesting? And you go on about your vacation week. The experimenters, here to study some specific items. In other words, the Earth itself, reproductive biologies, and all subspecies. We're considered a subspecies, and so on down the line. The invaders, here to do bad things to us. If they can, they enslaved us a long time ago. Many people they have, many missing persons now. You don't have to look on the government or police blotters. They have them. Carloads of them, shiploads of them, and also in government underground experimental laboratories. They know what's happening to them. You know. Manipulate, invade, whatever you would. We've had so many TV shows showing these kind of analogous actions that all you have to do is go back. And some of the ones that are short-lived but seem to be good probably are hitting too close to home, so they take them on. Then you have what I call the teacher friends. Here to help us grow and eventually save ourselves and prepare for next steps in what is called the onward evolution of man or mankind. I'm not going to go into a lot of this portion because in either next time or the time after that, let's say I take 3 parts, we'll get into what are called the synthetics, the clones, the hybrids, the MIBs, men in black, might as well call it WMIBs, women and men in black, whatever you would. Many times the clones are simply referred to as Dow bones because they're saying that you can create something genetically now, simply set the soul into it or an intelligence into it, and it walks the earth and we think it's a being. You notice more and more people, as they have, will be saying that they saw you or they see somebody like you someplace else. I saw you, boy, what are you doing here? Where were you another time? And people say, oh, it's a double jury. It's astral projection. No. Many of half clones. You will find, as we talked about before also, and we'll get more into this, certain birthmarks, which are like skin patches or skin suits, which are on people of all races, and yet the birthmark is the same. Born on different continents, but the birthmark is so similar, it's almost like it's been a stamp of approval. Interesting things go on here. And the more I think we begin to understand, just as we hear the sirens again, Homewood Police Force is really something else. We begin to see that certain things must be happening. Melanie, you said you had a name, too, on Lake Victoria. So what I want to do is simply this. Kilimanjaro. Well, in fact, what have you got on there? While she's looking it up, you let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Kilimanjaro, of course, located on the great continent of Africa, if you would, has a lake there, Lake Victoria. On one side of it are the largest people of Earth, as far as height go, the Watusis. And you might even have to add to that Ugandan, Tasmanian, and Nubians. We'll call Watusis for right now. And some of the smallest people on Earth, on the other side of that, the pygmies. They range here from somebody 2.5 feet tall. Almost now would be called a dwarf. The pygmies are well sculptured, well rotted, well proportioned, all the way up to 9.5 to 10 feet tall, and they have supposedly found 11.5 foot tall Watusi still alive. What's interesting about that is when I did the research there, and I asked her, do you have that information to insert this diagram?
You want to know where Mount Kilimanjaro is, and it's in the southern part of Kenya.
Southern part of Kenya.
I know you can't see this, but this is really an atlas of Central Africa, and this is Lake Victoria here, which is bordered by Zaire, Tanzania, Kenya, and Kenya. Are those 3 countries?
Zaire, Tanzania, and Kenya borders it.
And Mount Kilimanjaro is in southern Kenya, about right here.
Now, there's an old name for that lake. Were you able to find that for me?
Yeah, and I'm not sure this is the name that you're looking for. The name that they also know Lake Victoria as is called Victoria Nyanza. That's Nyanza.
Nyanza would be something with N something. You can say that. NY, what is it again?
Nyanza.
Yeah, Nyanza. Anyway, that was, I'm quite sure that the natives there didn't call it Victoria. at the time when they first named it. Now, why did I want that looked up? And I appreciate that again, Melody, as usual. Two reasons. Mount Kilimanjaro is surrounded with mystery, has been for some time. Lake Victoria recently had a detonation of an atomic device made by the British and the Israelis there. Interesting enough, bubbles came up, sulfur came up, and the area had a toxic cloud for almost 3 weeks. It hung over that. That is the lake itself, and I wondered why they did that. But at the same time, there have been seen UFOs of all types over Mount Kilimanjaro, tall beings with luminescence around them, and even seem to have on long white robes and white and gold tassels. Females that seem to float through the air and get into like shadow spheres and go up the mountain. It's stemmed, if you look at the lore of Mount Kilimanjaro, with mystery. We could spend just a whole day, maybe one day they will have a travel on just the things, the interesting things found in Kilimanjaro. What's interesting also is that in Uganda, in Tasmania, in Nubia, even amongst what is called the Khoi people, who is almost now like a fetish, if you would, that the people in that area and the people in Uganda and around like that try to emulate, if not imitate, to say the best form of flattery, the Khoi kind of usage of a clicking sound. You remember Mary McKeeba and all used the click sound, and so very hard as you talking, and you double click and triple click and so on again like that. What they have found out is that that clicking sound is the same language that the dolphins use. The dolphins have learned to speak English, French, Tanzanian, Moroccan, Algerian, Lithuanian, Polishness. I simply say they can speak in many languages no matter the trainer. They can be spoken to if you understand the clicking sound. And they used to be more or less the governors of the sea. So if you could speak with them, you could get along with many of the other creatures of the sea who respected them as go-betweens between human cetaceans and so on like this. That whole thing stems from supposedly cetaceans and some type of an upright walking amphibian, remember I did not say reptilian, I said amphibian, that encountered many of the people there in parts of southern Africa. Many of the people who are now called Dogons, I call them Doggins, because our word again is they were going to the dogs. This is what they stated, they were going to the dog star, they were told Doggons. And they all stated that they were put here by cetaceans, by an upright walking type of a creature who had gills and so, and were saved from others who would do them harm and protected in the incubation stage, given great leadership and ability to construct things and to use mental, psychic powers by these creatures who they say came from the planet, well I shouldn't even say the planet, it came from the constellation called Sirius. By the way, the Doggons know also that Sirius was a planet with 3 major stars. That wasn't certified, I think it was, until one of the British astronomers, roughly about 30 years ago, William Herschel or somebody along that line. They knew this. They also said that one of the star bodies there and one of the planets that circled it was called Solu, and it was made of metal. Now they found out that there's a specific metal, heavy gravity, spherical planet circulating there. They knew this a long time ago, and they also say that there's another sun, a third sun, which prospers a certain type of being who has a lot of interest in Earth. It's interesting that that constellation will come in proximity over the next 30 days. And it's very interesting to see what may transmute on this. I had made a prophecy that in June, we're in June, toward the middle of June, all the way to the end, some very interesting revelations will come forth. I'm still going to hold that and hold me to it. The Watusis grow 9.5 to 11 feet tall. Some of the people that helped them, upright walking cetaceans, were 12 foot 13 feet tall. And some of the other bodies, and of course we refer even to the biblical connotation that there were giants in the earth. When the sons of God went unto the daughters of men, and unto them were born wise men, and there were giants in the earth. Well, I don't know. For those of you who say, if the Bible doesn't say it can't be true, well, the Bible does have reference to it. as we take a look at all these things, we find even that the skin on our own hands, if you look at your feet and your hands, and especially if you're under a lot of sunlight, have a lot of little scales in some people again. Very cute and then very smooth on the surface, much like an alligator or a crocodile. Same thing with your feet. People have often asked that sometimes your feet can become so serrated and scaly that they almost look like they say like an animal's foot or a crocodile's foot. Okay? Well, I say we have a lot of things. There are people that are born with 34 and 36 vertebrae, and some of it is clipped. Get it down to our so-called 32. There are people with elongated medulla stems, with cranial lobes that instead of having supposedly 6 sections, have 8 or 9 sections. Some people, you cut them open, and unlike what they tell you, when you look at the good physiological graphing thing again, have organs that don't even look anything like it, 2 of duplicated things. Some people are even found to have artificial things within them, and nobody knows of any surgery that they have. We are an interesting species that can't get along because of our races and our religions, but I'll say this, if we can't get along on Earth, and we at least are bipedal humanoid looking, what are we going to do when creatures coming out look like praying mantises or like worms and so on again like this? If you notice that all of the movies that you're seeing now are showing you all different kinds of colorations, all different kinds of configurations. They have only one thing in common. They're intelligent. I think the universe may have a grand awakening for some very narrow minds. Probably they'll wind up in the hospitals anyway. They were called insane asylums. When we surmise and draw to an end an overlook of T's, and I can only say that our next session, I hope you do not miss because I'll be going to go into even more of that. I wanted to share with you 2 areas which seemingly teem with these aliens. One, of course, is the Area 51, notorious by its absence of any kind of supposed to be specific proof. But in the Nevadas and in the Utahs, at Dulce, New Mexico, they have a hotel on Dulce too. There have been government research projects inside of mountains. Obviously, they're trying to do something now at Lake Victoria or Nyanti. Not Nyamin? Okay, whatever it was. I have to get that down. And also the infamous Denver airport. And if you remember, and I won't take a lot of time with that, cost overruns were forever. Took them almost 5 years to complete it. And now it's called the New International Airport. New World International Airport. Not called Denver Airport. They want to know why they built it 50 miles away from Denver in the first place, out there in the middle of nowhere. These were some of the murals that were there, which supposedly some say are still there. I haven't gone there. If you go into Denver Airport Museum, you might look. It shows, of course, reptilians and crocodiles, and then it shows a British flag there. I don't know why the British flag should be at the Denver Airport.
Hold it up. We can't see
Again,
it.
well, going again like this. Shows you also a turtle hovering over the dead body of a black woman who had been with child, and some interesting things there. These are murals there.
Murals for an airport?
That's right.
Yes.
Murals for an airport. Okay. If you want to take it back, just pass them back again. Right? We go over this at the end because we have a lot to cover. We'll have a lot of questions and comments, I'm sure. Here's another one again, showing some kind of an octopus-type creature and a cougar or a leopard again, looking over different classifications of people. Light, white, brown, Latino, dark, there, with a cat. Best, so looking over them, scrutinizing them, if you would. All these were at the airport. Here's again the same close-up again, and it shows again a white woman with a black baby, and it shows again a black woman trying to reach for the baby, but being interposed with by a white man, and that's a mural there. Here again, murals at the Denver airport shows a, I think this one is a serpent or some kind of a praying mantis or something again over a child, and then it shows a Magdalenic type figure, and then it shows a Latino baby as a Jesus, again, with a white dove flying away. Oh, they're all mixed up there, aren't they? And then again, this is a replication of the other one with a dove of not peace, but a black dove looking on at what's going on. All of those things were there in addition to the Masonic high degree starts off at 32. You know, there's many degrees basically past 33 degrees. This one starts off at 32, goes up with the T-square, and something that was put into the cornerstone of the building there. Here, of course, again, is a sunset sextat, which is a sundial. And the sundial focuses not only with inscriptions about Venus and Mars, and so it has a Masonic seal upon it. I didn't make this, these are only the pictures. It's going to be extremely interesting.
And where are those pictures at? All at the
These
Denver.
pictures, these are all in the Denver airport. These are photographs of things in the Denver airport.
That's what they call the Great Hall.
Okay? Great Hall of the Denver airport. Understand, the Denver airport is 50 miles away from Denver.
We finally
And
see
it's
one
not called
picture
the
back
Denver
here.
airport. We call it the Denver airport. They call it the New World International Port. Right? Now, underneath all of that, and if you remember, when Art Bell was 2 weeks back from his hiatus, coming back to the show, if you will, please, coming back from his show, he stated that he had a chance during his hiatus to go to the Denver airport. And he got to see some things that most people don't. He said he'd been down underneath the Denver airport and seen some very interesting things. He said no more. Art Bell now goes to 500 markets this year. I already told you that's over 1 billion people. That kind of power is not given freely. What we have had tapes on and lectures about and researched on, yes.
Could you pause for a second like change the tape?
We're stopping right. Melody, he says he's ready, so put it back on, all right? Okay.
Turning on now.
All right. So again, as we take a look at some of these things at the New World International Airport and understand the cost overruns, the rumor has, and that's the best way I'll put it, that there are miles of tunnels underneath there, that they go out to all parts away from Denver. Of course, this is one of the highest points in the United States. That there have been tunnels that lead to just plain cement walls. Nobody knows why they built them there and didn't went inside. And that there are not only places to store people down there, but also headquarters, offices, and strange tunnels leading to seemingly nowhere. You can see that behind that wall, there are tracks of something being on it. It's a very interesting place. And I state that another one of the many places that probably houses or is connected directly with either terrestrial, extraterrestrial, or alien-type beings. Here are some sketches that came from supposedly a reptilian type of being, a male, again, and a reptilian type of being, a female.
And where are these sketches from?
Sketches, again, I cannot state. I will tell you afterwards on the Q&A. Right? The sketches supposedly showing a male reptilian and a female reptilian. One of at least 13 different kind of species that are possibly with us at this particular time. Here's one that was downloaded showing a floater. This floater is a device that hovers in the air, anti-gravity, with a packet of whatever electronic or whatever works within it that has been seen, again, in this particular place, it's spotted in the air, and it was hovering over one of the aliens themselves, a more reptilian, serpentine-type creature. This was a floater, his packet of protection, and himself. Now, we have other pictures, as I say, when we move on with these series, I'll be showing you some more, and then also whatever I can get hold of that's possible to obtain. They try to hide all of these things, but they really don't in one sense, because if you press hard enough, you can get them. It just means that they're not trying to awaken you. If you awaken yourself, well, I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. To summate part one, we feel that there are terrestrials, extraterrestrials, and aliens on this planet, have been for some time. That the planet Earth, that they say is about 5.5 billion years, maybe triple that. That there's been at least alien or some type of life form on it for at least 1 billion of those years. That we've probably lost more civilizations here than we'll ever recall, and we're about to lose them. In this case, I think, though, it will be a transmutation of this one into something bigger, and the Earth will probably split, be centered off with those life forms that want to stay with the old Earth, and those who want to go with the new Earth. You heard the statement, so all I can say about it includes part one of our first journey into what is called T's, terrestrials, extraterrestrials, and aliens. From there, I want to move to a very interesting place called the state of Illinois. And another very interesting place is called the state of St. Louis. There has been an arch that was built in St. Louis called the St. Louis Arch. I guess that's easy enough. But the whole story behind it I found extremely interesting, and I will tie that in with another place that you probably know about, parts of southern Illinois, down near Cahokia, down near, I can't think of the two cities there again, but it'll come back to me. A little history of the Gateway Arch is simply this, that it's been referred to as majestic, magnificent, incredible, compelling, you name it again. It came about because when St. Louis was first created, it was a transportation hub using the Mississippi River to bring about things that had to be brought up to the municipality, then it could cross over to Illinois and all like this. But as that began to die out and trains began to be more flourished, I guess, than ships, and airplanes began to carry cargo, that area began to die out. And so an attempt was made to rejuvenate that dying district. And a number of proposals were made over the years as to how to do it. What they really did was in 1933, the idea of revising the riverfront section there gained attention by a person by the name of Luther Eli Smith, a St. Louis lawyer. When he really began to work with it, the arch developed and a total riverfront redevelopment came into being, which is now referred to as JIMNA, simply Jefferson National Expansion Memorial Association. They're the ones that got behind it. They petitioned Congress, and they got money from Congress again to establish it. What happened is that the city supplied, again, 1/3, and an estimated 2/3 of it, $30 million, came from Congress through a petition. It was granted, first of all, by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, so you can understand at that time there was a lot of money to put into it. And then it was recommissioned again with other presidents going through the years. What I want to do is to look mainly at the arch itself. I have to read this verbatim because it was too much for me to memorize. So I'll simply give you some literature about how the arch looks. The arch is so tall that one of the major problems was how to raise the steel sections into place. The first 6 sections of each leg reached a height of 72 feet. They were handled conventionally with cranes. Beyond that, it was necessary to use a unique creeper derricks, especially designed for this particular project, the St. Louis Arch. Each 80-ton assembly was essentially a tiltable platform mounted on tracks fastened to the arch itself. On top of each of this was a 130-foot crane. The rigs climbed to predetermined stations, and the cranes then lifted the sections. They were also used to lift reinforcing steel and post-tensing bare and placed in the concrete. Completed sections were lifted by the creeper cranes and put into position 4 inches above the previously placed section and set on 3 35-ton jacks. The jacks positioned the section accurately, leaving a gap between the sections just wide enough for the wells. As work progressed to the exterior of the arch, workers were very busy inside with conveyors, systems, and so on like this. The conveyance system designed for carrying passengers to the top of the arch was another innovative solution to a unique challenge. Because of the arch's curvature, a standard elevator system would not work above 300 feet. Escalators were rejected for the same reason. Even the Ferris wheel principle, which utilized small containers of people with their seats pivoted to swing at any angle, would not work because people would not be able to get to the top of the arch. Finally, a combination of the elevator principle and the Ferris wheel principle were developed into a train of capsules. Each capsule holds 5 passengers in the seated position. For power, a traction-type elevator machine is used. The capsule consists of a 5-foot diameter barrel, which can rotate the passenger load as below the center line, and so on again like that. Work steadily progressed. The project demanded increasingly sophisticated engineering because the 2 legs were being built simultaneously. Great care had to be given to assure accurate measurements. A deviation of any magnitude between the bases could have resulted in the legs failing to meet perfectly when they reached the top. To avoid variations caused by the sun's heat on the steel panels, all measurements were done at night. All measurements were done at night. As the 2 freestanding arch legs reached a certain height, large construction loads and the weight of the derricks on top could tend to bend and possibly topple the legs inward. To prevent this, an 80-ton stabilizing strut was installed between the two legs at the 530-foot mark to support them until they could be joined. After the stabilizing truss was erected, 21 sections were added to each leg, and on October 28, 1965, workers using hydraulic jacks opened a 2-foot gap to 8 feet to allow the last section to be inserted. When the jack pressure was released, the natural thrust of the legs clamped the section into place. Once it was welded, the jacks and stabilizer struts were removed, and the creeper derricks were lowered. As they went down, the track was removed, the bolt holes repaired, and the stainless steel surfaces were polished. Today, the St. Louis riverfront and the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial continue to serve as a gateway. The magnificent arch marks a point of passage for the pioneers of yesterday. The site was a window of their future for us to mirror in our past. To conclude that part, the builder of this particular arch, the architect of it, again, was a man who nobody knew about before, and out of 172 architectural submissions, his was chosen. Nobody could understand it, but it seemed to be great. His arrogant personality, his dominating spirit seemed to influence senators and statesmen, and where he went, they began to get money to build. What's very interesting is that this particular person supposedly died mysteriously in 1961, a year before the arch construction was to begin. I say mysteriously because some say he went on a trip and died while on vacation. Others say he had a sudden heart attack. Others say that he had seen him before, but he refused to have anything more, so they simply said he died. Had a very interesting name, too. The particular name was Eero Saarinen. Eero Saarinen. Said he came from E-E-R-O S-A-A-R-I-N-E-N. Said he came from someplace near Lithuania, something like that. Very dominant, very strange looking man, olive skin, slant eyes, something like this, and very tall. Eero Saarinen.
Where'd you say he came from?
He said he came someplace near Lithuania or someplace again like that. And when pinned down another time, he told somebody else he came from someplace else. And so, what else? What can I take? Can you bring me that one again? Bring it with it. Yeah, I have a picture which I didn't bring. Thank you very much, which is showing a look at the arch from St. Louis. And I didn't find that one, so I wasn't going to hold up any nomics around somewhere. It also shows that at one of the Masonic centers, that if you look at it, the arch frames the Masonic, this particular figure of the Mason, and he's also holding a water jug and something else again, which I guess are astrological symbols. I'm not really sure. But what I really want to say is that the St. Louis Arch, again, across from the Mississippi, it's across again from part of the Missouri River. It can be seen at the tip of Illinois as you look over the lake toward it, over the river toward it, if you would, and it is actually something to behold. My statement is to you, it is more than an arch. It is a portal waiting for activation if it has not already been activated. And if you watch the movie Stargate, which is not the movie but the series, it's really getting good now. They're branching out, they're not limiting to just desert settings like Iraq or Iran. They're going to other planets, they're going into space, they're going to other dimensions. It was very interesting. They did lose a melanated man there, so that there were other melanated beings in the universe. I didn't think there was such a thing possible. And also, as I said, brings in a variety of racial types, and they find out that Earth is probably not alone. It's on different dimensions and so on again like this. This, to me, is what the arch is capable of doing, and one which shows, again, its portal affinity. The idea that the arch is nothing but a portal that can be utilized, and if not already being activated at night, is someplace that seems to intrigue a lot of UFOs, aliens, and extraterrestrials in that whole area. I'll simply leave it up here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you ever seen it?
Pardon? Oh, that's some kind of a plane carrying the Statue of Liberty through the portal in its past. That's an artist, Liberty there, of course. Huh?
Where'd you find that picture?
Oh, I find a lot of people. Or they find me. Now, as we understand that concept, and I know it is very way out, and again, I always tell you in all my lectures, there's no truth until you decide what truth is, but I think you'll find the more you do research, the more you respect and like mine. And I'm always interested in more information. If you have any to lend, please contact me. I don't want to be ignorant. I love to be intelligent. I can only be so with information, backup information. In Illinois, right across from that wonderful area, there is a place called the Cahokia Mountains. The legends about that are replete with all kind of interesting terrestrial and artifacts and so on again like this. They have a huge pyramid down there, the base of which is larger than the one on the Giza Plateau, right down here in southern Illinois. They also have a very interesting chamber within one of the larger pyramids there, and it has a series of concentric spear heads, all made, I think it's 13 of them if I remember correctly. In the center was a burial tomb. Something was buried there. And around it, in concentric circles, were made up of spearheads. Each spearhead were made of different materials, represented a different tribe, life form, native population, if you would. And they were there showing that they came to honor whoever it was that was buried in the middle there of this pyramid, and that they came from the far reaches of our planet. Because the spearheads are there, and the construction and composition of them, it shows that they came from as far west as you might as well say, if you want to go westward again, as parts of Europe. They came from the Near East, which always means what? Africa. They came from parts of China. They came from parts of South America. How did they get here? Why did they get there? And why did each one lay their own recognition symbol that they had attended the burial or whatever happened of this particular person? It's still down there for you to see. At least it was. I hope these things continue to be artifacts that can be visited. But who or what was buried there? Also interesting, as in Cahokia. It's now been made between Collinsville and Edmondsville. What's interesting there is a state park now, wildlife preserve, not allowed to take things in and out of there. Huge terrain, including many caves. There are all kind of caves, all kind of strange rock formations there, all kind of inscriptions on some of the terracotta that is there. There have been said to have been seen great birds flying in and out of these caves. I don't mean like an eagle or a condor. Huge birds flying about. Some people said, well, the legends of the bird led to legends of UFOs flying about. They've had both. Strange-looking birds, almost like pterodactyls, and lights that seem to fall from the sky and go into some of these huge caves. And some caves, they said, even seem to open up as the lights approach. Strange legends about whooping sounds, they said, made possibly by whooping cranes. And all kind of stories of the Native Americans there about how this was sacred ground. And if you actually climb on the ziggurat, because there's a step pyramid that's down, if you climb up again, you can begin to look over 3 states from its top. I climbed it, you can see so. This is a wonder right in our own state. Also, you see little indentations and scribings on the stone itself as you climb up. Maybe it didn't say like Kathy loves Mary or John loves Bess or something like this. And very interesting cuneiforms on there, if you would. The legends abound in that area, and we have to now branch off into the neighboring state, of course, of Indiana. And that is that who or what built them, how long were they built, and why did they end there? And I say they end there because they are part of what is called the famous Snake Mounds. They go all the way from Pennsylvania across the Ohio Valley, and these mounds of elevated rock and shell, and so end there with this huge pyramid there. Snake mounds seem to wander through 3 or 4 different states, and they've often asked who built them, why did they build them. It looks like almost a big worm that's crawled over the eastern, northeastern portion of the United States that ends up right there in Cahokia State Park. We now understand that even though some of the Native Americans refer to themselves as Indians, they could not have been Indians. Why? Because Indians came from where? India. Native Americans didn't say they migrated from India, so why did they call them Indians? Well, that gets to be an easy story solved quickly, Columbus said that they were Indians because he supposedly went to the East Indies, or was it the West Indies, and discovered the Indians, so he named them that. And of course, once he told them that that's what they were, since he was a great white father, they all agreed that they'd be called Indians. Believe that history? But still taught in school. It's the truth. I haven't exaggerated anything. I make humorous of ludicrousness. Ignorance I make fun of, but at the same time, that's the story that's still told. Quite obviously, either these people forgot who they were brainwashed, or made to accept a title that was not theirs for one reason. Then you don't know who they really were. We're always told also that the Indian is a red man. Menominee comes in yellow, white, red, brown. You heard about some green ones. I don't really know. But I'm simply saying they are so-called Indians. Obviously, Indians is a metaphor conclusively reaching over a people that were here. Now, what have they said about themselves? They've said that one of the great gods came down there, and when he finally left, and they called it a he-she because he was a hermaphrodite, he was neither male nor female, but gave him great instructions, and gave many of the tribes of the nations there great instructions as to how to use these crystals and how to use these energies that were down there to heal with, to do psychic things with, and to state that again that there were more, I guess, things happening here than they realized, and so they gave the god a name, if you would. Indians is not the names of the people that were here, and I prefer to state again that whatever the names of the people that were here, they have also Olmecan type statues along with the so-called more Native American type facial headgear. They understand also that among the Atomies, among many of the Native Americans, again, there were Negroid-looking peoples. Why do I always refer to this? Because the only thing left out of history is Negroid-looking peoples, except as slaves. And I'm trying to tell you that if the face on Mars is that of a black woman, then surely the Martians didn't just come here for nothing, or people didn't leave here from Africa and go up there and build. As stated many times, all Negroid-looking people did not come from Africa. They came from everywhere on the planet. You're made to look at Africa. Therefore, you don't look at the planet as a scope, and therefore you lose heritage. Native Americans had also Olmecan-looking people. The face on Mars has an Olmecan-looking person, female on one side. And what we find down there is whoever died there was patronized, was indemnified, was idolized, something like people from all over the earth, right down there in southern Illinois. Do research there. It's probably worth looking into. The caves still hold lots of legends about all kinds of creatures, tall, short, green, red, blue, about things that fly from the sky and glow at light, go into these caves, come out. And if you remember recently, there was a UFO seemed to go into the, what is it, Missouri River, is that Mississippi River there? The board is right up there, I forget which. Into the waters that were down there, and 2 policemen had seen it go that direction. There's been a lot of sightings down in southern Illinois over the last 3 months. Lots of sightings of UFOs and about strange-looking people and all like this. I state that that portal probably soon will be activated, if it is not already, based upon 3 things. The Montauk Project, the Brookhaven Heavy Iron Collider, and Project ESCAP. These are things to start to use particle accelerators and start to open up what they call vortexes and spheres for what we would now call astral projection. What they want to call it is time travel. Remember again how I use that. Their time travel is our astral projection into metaphysical. Go from one point to another, reassemble. But of course we try to say reassemble only in the flesh. I think it goes a little bit differently than just reassembling in the flesh. Illegals, it says, like Alien Gonzalez, must be returned to the country of origin. Illegals are all over the place. Aliens supposedly have a country of origin and a place of origin. Aliens are all over the place. Interesting enough that an example was made of alien Gonzalez, who was found in the ocean when most of the other people around were either dead or gone, should have been dehydrated, should have gone to organic, found very much alive, and then a big example was made about how did he get there. Now, what have they just found off the coast of Cuba? Cuba, forgive me. Supposedly the new Atlantis. A subterranean city down there now with all kind of steps and edifices. Cuba won't let the American government touch it because the American government already embargoed them. Russia's over there now, Japan's over there now taking pictures of this big edifice. But what did they first have to raid to test the United States once more? Alien Gonzales. They still found that racial prejudice exists here, very much so. That diplomacy goes out the window when racism rears its ugly head. We're being shown things, folks. We're being toyed with and played with, and I think we're maybe being counted, weighed, maybe divided. See exactly where we do stand. We have no less in the state of Illinois and in these, what is called these big mid-sections, mid-states, Midwest, very interesting waters. We have what are called homes on the Great Lake. This is the way, of course, I used to memorize them. I had a past test, of course, the acronym. Homes is Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Going to home. These are the homes on the Great Lakes. These are the homes of the Great Lakes. And homes to very, very interesting creatures if you go back into Native American law. Chicago, which means River of Wild Onions, was a place that you had a portage to in 3 moons. That was the ancient legends here. It meant that if you were porting or walking, and you started off near the Atlantic coast, or from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York State, came across Ohio, and so on again like this, you had to reach Chicago in 3 moons. And they did not tarry in the Ohio Valley, which was always said to be Machnik, which is a German thing, but the place of Penguins, the flying ones, the dastardly, the demons. So you didn't stay there. You didn't live there. You portaged till you got here. And because of the wild onions and the smells and things here, supposedly it set up a barrier against those evil spirits and the flying creatures. And that's why they used it as a safe haven if you went there. They're still, of course, arguing about who first settled here, or whether John Point, Isabel, or wherever else in here, and so on like this. Always racial, always foolishness, when the real thing should be what went on here, what are they hiding here, and what did happen here again. Every lake, and we could spend years on this one too, has mysteries surrounding it. Lake Michigan has a very interesting use of the name Oneida, O-N-E-I-D-A. Ships will not be called Oneida anymore in Lake Michigan unless somebody's very brazen and wants to do it. Every ship has been called Oneida. It has within proximity of wherever it was, what they call docked, and they don't want to put in water, sunk. Huge freighters that have been called Oneida. 3 of them went down in Lake Michigan. Schooners, little launches that go down. It's Oneida. It's like a curse name in that. It's one of the mariners' favorite things about Lake Michigan. You don't call your ship Oneida unless you're really brave and asking for it. Plus the fact they've been said that Michigan seems to be, in some places, bottomless. They say it goes under 293 feet, and drops down to about 350. I don't think they've ever found the bottom to Lake Michigan, to tell you the truth. There's a huge lead drop-off point which they've sounded. There's a lot of things in Lake Michigan. In fact, it's supposed to be the 3rd largest only of the lake, but it's said to be the deepest part of the lake there, if you would. All kind of strange things that happened. And most recently have been the little mollusks and things that was brought into the St. Lawrence Seaway and now stopped up the intake valve there at the crib out in Ohio Street. They closed it down for almost 7 months, trying to get the screens. Other people still say they can still see little eggs and stuff coming through in their water pockets or so. A very interesting lake. And again, I won't spend any more time than that, but it is again. What's also very interesting, too, is what everybody knows in history, because all these are very intelligent, very well educated. They all know about the Chicago fire. You know, back in 1871, an O'Leary's cow tipped over a lantern, and the barn went up, and then a Holocaust had followed, which burned down all of Chicago, except for one little tower, the water tower down there, which is a landmark. You all know that story. You can tell me about Mr. O'Leary, too. Well, flatly, that's a big lie. What's very interesting about all of that is that they still teach it. They still herald today, and I've got nothing against Irish, so don't go back. I downed Irish people. When I talk about Columbus, I downed Italian people. I love Irish people. I love Italian people if they're lovable. I've got nothing against anybody. That's not my point. That's foolishness. What we're talking about is history that they misreported. What happened on that day, and I have a whole tape on that, about Chicago fire, the truth about it. Encapsulated, I'm leaving out a lot. There had been a big drought over the western states, a big hurricane-type wind, 250, 150, 250 miles an hour, swept through here, made an L-shaped turn, went up to Custer, Wisconsin, and so on like that. Went out to Nova Scotia, went over to Japan. This whole western hemisphere was under a drought. Fires broke out in over 18 different cities in 6 different states. The whole bit goes on. They had lakes that came on fire up in Winnebago County and so up in Tuskegee, Wisconsin. None of that. They even, if you go there, they have these landmark sites. It's on the county scrolls. You don't get hearing that. You're still talking about O'Leary and her top. They stated that white-hot lightning shot up from the lake to the sky and down from the sky into the lake. Whole lakes blew afire. A big volcano came into one of the lakes at the Dells. In fact, one of the big Dell mountains there were formed when this volcano erupted in 1871. All of this stuff going on. Searing white heat, a drought that had lasted for almost 38 days. None of that gets reported. There was a book out at one time called Mrs. O'Leary's Comet. Came closer to the truth because they finally said either a comet must have come over this area or somebody with a very advanced radon blasted the whole place. Whatever, a little old cow in a little old barn in back of Mrs. O'Leary's home is absolute childlike. They still teach childlikeness because they still say, too, that the pyramids, again, were built as a tomb by slaves working for... Okay. Believe that, I got a bridge on Mars, I want to say. Cheap. FEMA showed that Chicago not only could flood, but Chicago could make deals once it was flooded. Understand that when this happened, Ron Brown, I think, was Secretary of Commerce, not Daley. Also remember when this happened again in 2, they found when downtown Chicago flooded. Some of you, of course, are not from here, so this may be new to you. All of you in Chicago remember the flood downtown Chicago. And the whole loop down there was cordoned off with lake water. They begin to say, oh, what's going to happen down there with the buildings? And so on again like this. Well, they found out a number of things happened there. One, they found out that lake could reach levels they didn't talk about. 2, they found that there was an old subway down there that had never been closed off, and the water trickled down there. 3, they found there were underground prisons and things down there that led from the 1st District, right down there at 12th Street, out to the lake, and out to the Museum of Science and out to the Field Museum. Didn't know anything about all that. Remember, that was when Mayor Washington, before that time, he said he didn't want any more construction. Right after he died, they started the construction sites going again. And also that in the Stevens building, there was an atomic reactor. You can't see them as they're looking at me on tape. It's priceless. You can see their mouths. Stevens building, an atomic reactor. Now, do you remember the city council ever asking to vote in an atomic reactor to be put in down there in Stevens? Remember you ever asking for any kind of nuclear power to be put in downtown Chicago? Remember any SIR bills or true bills or anything that was served to state this is what should happen? I don't remember it. But it was down there. Now the reactor supposedly was a heating plant for that building only. One of the big reasons they were is because the heating plant, and if you know again, our office say these atomic reactors are so stupid in the first place to be used as they do, okay, with the fission reactor. Why? Because what do? They heat water. Can't you think of a better way to heat water than putting it in an atomic active pile? To heat water? It's not the pile, it's the water that runs around the pile that gets heated. That's what an atomic cooled reactor is. So that means that some of that water may have, how would we know, become radioactive after that lake subsided. That whole lake may now be radioactive. If you understand what radioactivity can do to a drop of water, and what a drop of water can do to all kind of good fresh water, and especially if you've got salt as a conductor. You know, one of the things that we talked about in one of the lectures too was when they had this mess that happened up in Antarctica about a month ago. The key was salt, because when you have dehydration or when you have atomic fissionable material, you need salt. The body just dehydrates. It pulls moisture from out everything and just pickles it and fries it. Interesting enough, we don't even know what happens in our own city, but then we knew that a long time ago, because we're all voters, and all of you vote, so we don't even talk about that. FEMA was signed into agreement there so that monies could be loaned out to the municipality of Chicago, which means that there is now a standing agreement with FEMA. Once FEMA, always FEMA. You know what FEMA stands for, right? Federal Employees Management Act and so on and so forth, right? Okay, whatever. It means that in a state of what could be classified as emergency, the government can, without any meeting of anybody in the city of Chicago, take over, because the contract was signed with FEMA back then. One existing FEMA agreement, always an existing FEMA agreement. I'm not seeing. As we move on, Part 3 simply states this. Now, I want to get a little bit of Ohio since I had it on this page. The Ohio Valley, as they say, is replete with legends of gig winds. There is a story related to what was called a silver bridge that was there in parts of one of the counties in Ohio, a huge expansion bridge that fell one day and killed some 130 people, caused a lot of money and property loss, and so. But the ways that it fell was supposed to be a swarm of silverized objects, which they referred to later on as a swarm of large birds, vibrated with a sound in the air, what you heard at the beginning of the lecture, that caused the bridge to tremble, expand, and fall. It's almost like some of the birds that you see me wear. See that big gold bird I wear sometimes? That's the one that looks at the bird has a strut, ailerons, levitating gear, wingspan, fuselage, birds. Set of birds. Also, to talk about gig winds or flying dragons, dracons, supposedly exist in the Ohio Valley. They've been seen walking upright, and seemingly, again, as we'll talk with, the better species of dracons has wings, but we'll be getting all into that too. But in that area, that is where many of the Native Americans said you avoid it. And I'll tell you something else too. Underneath that area of Pennsylvania, leading into Ohio, is a peat moss bed. I'd rather call it a peat moss land or something. They have over 150 miles of peat moss that supposedly is 4 miles deep and supposedly at least 4 miles thick that has been on fire for over the last century. They can't put it out. It smolders there. If ever there is any water that would come in from the East Coast and make it to Ohio and get down there where that peat moss is, you could forget Ohio. There would now be a big crater where Ohio and part of Pennsylvania is. It doesn't take too much to activate it. They also know this. And because of that heat and sulfur down there, not too many things, that's one of the reasons they built all the industrial areas there, because nothing else could pretty much grow there. Even with the Black Hills, and so, if you notice, that's a kind of an isolated thing. We'll go into that too sometime, about the uniqueness of the Black Hills. Either way, Ohio and the Midwest is a very interesting place, not at all like what we've been told. To summate, Earth Terrestrials hidden history. The state Earth has many, many names. I only replicated the names for a point. To let you know that if you're going to study anything, try to find out the ancient name for it. And not the new name, because when you study the new name, you get the new caricatures about it, the new explanations of it, and not probably the real. Terra may not be so firm as I quoted out at the beginning, because if the moon is hollow, which they're now saying, the earth can't be solid. Terra is not firmer because level upon level upon level they found, and I have 7 tapes about it, inner world cities already down there. Some of which the government has utilized, tells you that they built it in case of an emergency, impact 1, deep impact. Saw the movie? What they didn't tell you is they found it down in the first place. All they're doing is utilizing it. Now that they can get to some of them they still can't get to because they're barred from getting there. Right? Understand Terra cannot be so firmer because underneath Nevada, Utah, down to Dulce, New Mexico, almost all the western states, there are honeycombs of tunnels with vehicles that move through them. And they're not burned up with the molten lava or anything else. Understand that when we're talking about terra firma, you're talking about legends that range from Asia, that range from South America, that range from Africa, that range from Canada, that range from New Zealand, that range throughout the islands, and so about creatures that from time to time have come up out of the earth through big, large, and tall mountains. Sometimes at times when heights of things, catastrophes were happening, they've been saved by these creatures flying in gold ships, silver ships, and long needle-nosed black ships. The legends are replete. They go on infinitely. I simply say, do some study, keep your mind open. And in conclusion, with all the spraying that they're doing, and they're doing it like that, with all of the things that they're doing which will alter the weather, and if this keeps up, pretty soon you won't know summer from winter. Because summer, winter, spring, and fall already are beginning to be dissipated. We just had 28-degree temperatures in June. Okay? We had, in the middle of winter, it hit up to 90 last year, and then suddenly went on. And now we have non-moving, well, I think Melody said it so well, I hate to emphasize on it, non-moving linear columns of non-moving air, setting up the same kind of weather, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. Hopefully it hasn't gone to month after month. And I know the people in Houston hope that that soon moves on. These are not natural cloud formations. The jet stream exceeded that. They've altered the jet stream. They have weather modification using HARP, SDAC, relativistic heavy ion collider at Brookhaven, all kinds of different devices to bring these things about. They lie to you constantly, and they treat you as children because that's what most people act like. They believe anything they hear. You are exceptions. I'm not talking to you. But you have 4 friends that didn't come with you today because you know good and well if they heard this, you would be disbarred, disowned, disenfranchised, disjointed, maybe decapitated. You know that. I know that. Because people are very closed-minded, because they're afraid of everything, therefore they can believe in nothing, things that they cannot be challenged by. Last but not least, that bad wind up there that they keep letting out is fatal. They leave this little gaseous cloud of particulation, supposedly for good reasons now that people are beginning to question it, so that you don't get the ultraviolet light, so that you don't get all the burns and things like this. As we pointed out, and we'll conclude on our last one on this even in more detail, if you have an active pineal gland, you want that magnetic energy coming in. Magnetism and electricity are not good bedfellows. They're not good sex partners. They don't even like each other. And if you put a magnet near an electrical apparatus, woe be the electrical apparatus. Take a magnet and go behind your TV set. I don't even have to have it too many gauss either. You don't have a TV set and it won't run again. I go behind your computer, you've lost it. I go to the top of your building with one, your whole electrical unit is gone, depending on the grounding, and it doesn't take too much to put it on the ground and that, and the whole thing will burst into flame. Magnetism overrides any type of electricity because electricity is step-down magnetism. Electricity is step-down magnetism. What am I saying to all of that? They're fighting a losing battle for the planet Earth with the sun. And the godlike beings want the Earth to be returned to spiritual people before they have to destroy the whole planet. Not only is something wicked this way coming, something glorious this way coming, and the battle for the planet Earth is just commencing on stage 3. Level 5, they state, is annihilation factor. We're at level 3. I don't think we're going to be annihilated, but I think you're going to find a lot of people that you know, a lot of people that you don't know, even the planet, a little bit premature, if there's such a thing. You heard a lot. Hope it makes you think. Hope again that you continue to come out for the next 2 in this series. And I want to thank you very much, and then we'll open up for questions and comments. Thank you very much. Okay, as is the general practice, I guess it's easier to do 2 things than not. Is anybody still here? Melanie?
Yes.
Okay, is everything getting cold over there? Do we go to question and answers, or do we eat and have question and answers while we're eating? Don't. Pardon?
I think it's okay. She just started bringing stuff up.
Okay, so we can start with Q&A. All right, if it gets too cold and you start losing your hot food, because we have a lot of cold food and hot food, then we can stop and eat. Okay?
I don't know.
All right. Okay, it's open for questions, comments, statements, whatever. And I'll try to use a go-between as usual. You pass the mics with me. Let me see.
Yeah, we.
You need need the mic so to be on the chat.
Peace and blessings, Dr. Blair. My question is, would you elaborate more on what is going on off the coast of Cuba with this city of Atlantis? You're saying that there's a new find going on. Could you elaborate more on what's going on off the coast of Cuba?
Thank you. I don't know what's going on off the coast of Cuba. Simply because I'm not there and I trust no one that I don't trust. Consequently, since they're making a big stink about it, there supposedly have been found some huge monumental granite structures, towers, things that look like they may be edifications against some type of city, and so they found a terraced area going down miles into the ocean. They found statues, they won't say of what, and what they're saying is that Atlantis is now part of probably the Caribbean area or off the coast there. So it's a real hush-hush thing, and of course the United States wanted to go there immediately, and then Cuba reminded them of the embargo and that they're not welcome there. And Russia reminded them that they're friends of Cuba and the rest. So some United States scientists have been sent there, and it's all blacked out, whited out. Fantastic. Questions, comments? If you
I have a
would.
question.
Pass it back to the pretty lady. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Blair, you know I always have a lot of questions, so I'm going to narrow them down to 4, if I may.
Now, you people help me remember. Okay.
Number 1 is about the dolphins. You know, there's been a lot of studies out now indicating that dolphins are extremely intelligent and that they're able to detect ailments among humans and children, and that they are basically friends to this earth. There's also been indication that they've come from another planet, plane, sphere, that they're not natural animals here on this earth. And can you speak, I just need you to speak to that point, if you know, and I'm sure you do, anything on that topic. The second one is a simple one concerning the cetaceans, I believe. I'm confused. Were those the gods that the Watusis claimed to have come from? And did you say that the cetaceans also mated with the Watusis, and that's why the Watusis have their heights? I just need a little bit more clarification on the cetaceans, if they were alien beings. I'll remind you, Brother Blair, because I have them ticked off. The third question is about the Cahokia mounds, and you indicated that there was a pyramid there. I just need to know the age on that pyramid. You know, was that during the Egyptian circa or the Olmecan/Mayan Aztec pyramids, Peruvian pyramids? I just want a timeline on that one. And then the last one is, can you elaborate on the strange beings or the strange aliens that are found in Lake Michigan, and why the Lake Michigan waters are decreasing or declining so much? Thank you. The first one has to do with the dolphins and where they actually came from, why they are so intelligent.
Okay, the dolphins are very interesting creatures too. It's like the manta ray or the big rays. They always say that you follow a ray to its origin and its destiny, and you'll find the secrets of the earth. You can almost say that same thing with dolphins. What they found with the ray is that most of the rays, when they spawn, come near the Bermuda Triangle, by the way, which is now shifted. You don't hear any more reports about the Bermuda Triangle. It actually known that portal was shifted. Wherever they went, they would dive down. Nobody could follow how deep they dove. When they came up the next season, they had their young. Same thing with dolphins. There are all kinds of different kinds of dolphins. The dolphins are not collectively the same. There are leader dolphins, follower dolphins. There are dolphins that seem to speak in all kinds of different languages. They use mental telepathy, all of them again. They're very hyper, if you would, very gregarious when you let them be. The species dolphin, I think, is probably one of the ones that commune with some of the sea creatures, the sea aliens, or the gill-type aliens, and they were put here more or less as a go-between between landman, when he came, this part that came out of the ocean and of the seas, and with some of the cetacean and mammalian-type life forms. History is replete with legends of gill-breathing, upright walking people. Most of the cases, however, were not one like the movie. They didn't seem to attack people, and so they seemed to more or less question them. They seemed to give them great information. They've saved them at sea at one time. They don't do so much anymore. It used to be that many shipwrecked people and so were saved by these cetaceans. Or schools of dolphins would come and take them off or keep them afloat. They've even formed rings around people to fight off sharks. Well, of course, we're not worthy of any of that any longer. But it's been a strange interface between dolphins and man for some time. I'm not sure whether or not the dolphins that we see now were the original pets, hybrids of these creatures who were sea creatures, or whether or not they were a form of life that had its highness here and chose not to go further. I do know that dolphins, in many cases, will kill themselves, beat themselves like the sperm whales, and so rather than get into confrontations with man, or when their loved ones are killed and so on like this. They're a very emotional type of creature, seeming with deep spirituality. Okay, number 2 was
Cetaceans? I'm not clear on that term.
cetaceans, again, would be referred to as these gill type of sea creatures, if you would. And it's been said that one of the planets around Sirius A, or Sirius B, I forget which, has a planet of cetaceans, intelligent cetaceans, gill people who walk upright, or flippers, and who have to go back to the water after time. Now they've adapted to breathe both air and water, but they prefer the water. And again, there are a lot of hybrid exercises going on. We haven't gotten into that part yet. But as I say, there are what they call clones, there are what they call hybrids, there are what they call synthetics. There are all kinds of different life forms now. And I think in many cases, there's a lot of problems with thyroids now that are happening, especially with women. And they blame certain reasons for that. Many of them are referred to by some of the physiologists who study them as having gill throwbacks. That the thyroid is trying to become a gill, which was part of what the parathyroid-thyroid complex was, as we get more watery on this planet. And it's a throwback to show you recessive genes that may have brought you from people from Sirius. But we'll leave that go too. That's another whole big step in a lecture within its own step.
Did they mate with the Watusi? That was one of my questions.
Some of the very tall people that are in Africa have talked about that they had ancestors that came from space. The legends have gotten distorted. If you remember the interview with Credo Mutwa with David Icke, and talking about the serpentine people, and so he referred back to the serpent people who had done bad things to the folks, but he also referred to the cetacean and sea creatures that seem to have been fairly benevolent to some of the people in Africa. The point is that they have many giants that are now in the earth that are near that area, and that seemingly these receptive genes are there too. There's also tribes in Africa. There's a tribe of Japanese, in fact 2, and somebody else, I forget now, who have tails, who have scales and hides like again, who look like a cross between some type of a serpent and Vivian or something, and a person. So obviously either that cloning was going on centuries ago, or that intermixture happened due to genetic mutations and configurations.
There's a real group of people now.
And your fourth one?
The third one was how the pyramids, the pyramid in Illinois, right? And the last one was about what were the strange creatures in Lake Michigan.
Okay, where is it? Oh, how old is it?
How old is it? Right on the timeline with the other.
They don't seem to know either. I would state from the little bit I learned that they're almost as ancient as the Giza Plateau, which they're dating at 2,300 BC, which is probably a lie because now they're finding out that the Sphinx is older than the pyramids. Mm-hmm. So all of these kind of things. I mean, his story is a good one. My story is mystery is a better one. So I can't deal with his story. I can only pass tests on it and then laugh and leave the room and go out and study and get educated. So what can I say? I can't answer that one. It seems to be very old.
Okay, and the last one was, what are some of the strange things in Lake Michigan, and why is there such a decline in the water
level? And
yes.
Now that's another very interesting story. There's a theory that as our moon, and if you notice now, almost every month now is a blue moon. So the old prelate, how's it go? Once in a blue moon, you get it, blue moon every month. Blue moon simply means 2 full moons every month. You're getting 2 full moons every month. In 1 month we had 3, which means either our trajectory has changed from an orbit, to a circular more than an oblique or oblong. Either we've moved someplace and we're looking at the stars differently, and the stars are looking at us differently, and they haven't reported it, or something drastically has changed. Because it means that the moon is setting and rising, and our Earth, therefore, is moving through space at a very rapid time. Time is speeding up. Things are changing. So I really can't answer that one either, other than to say that there are changes going about. It does affect the waters, always does. The lake is full of everything nowadays. From the, you know, the alewives came about because they killed off all of the, I think, the trout. Okay. Then, when they killed off all the trout, they imported the coho salmon. The salmon ate the alewives. But when they did all of this, now, when this thing came in on the hulls of these ships, what do they call this thing that clogged up the intake valve? Mussels came in again. Well, then, the alewives, of course, now are spawning back from that. And what they have all formed are algae. And some of the algae that's on the back of the bottom of Lake Michigan now is a very poisonous type thing. Non-oxygenating levels, non-anaerobic. So the whole lake is dying in a sense. So I think that maybe something is treating the lake and siphoning off the lake. There have been, I know it's way out, but you ask it, you know I'm not going to avoid the question. They have seen something siphoning up water into the sky, yet they can't see where the water's going to. They had a picture of that, and that one mysteriously walked away. They've seen things plunging to the lake, and a big tidal wave, well, not quite a tidal wave, this big wave comes and hits the surface outside of the tide pool, supposedly from the moon. And that lake, just read some of the mysteries of Lake Michigan. It responds, it replenishes, it's required with just every kind of thing. So, who knows?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Welcome. Questions or comments? Back to that young lady in the rear.
Okay, I have several comments. First of all, the pictures you passed around from the Denver airport, one that you didn't pass around is the black trench-coated figure that's been associated with Columbine, and also was seen in The Matrix. And then secondly, the bridge spirit you were talking about. One of the things I noticed is like when we drive to Ohio, my husband always blows his horn when we cross rivers, and I ask him why he does that, and he was saying something about spirits. They believe in that in Ghana. When you cross bridges, you're supposed to blow your horn or whatever to drive certain types of spirits away. And then next, I don't know if anybody watches Miracle Pets. People's pets have begun diagnosing illnesses in them. One woman had a tumor in her breast, and her dog found it. I mean, the dog kept bumping up against her, and then she felt sore, and then she went to the doctor and found she had a tumor. And I'd heard other examples of people's pets diagnosing or finding different illnesses in their bodies as well. And then last of all, this is kind of off the subject, but I don't know if anybody heard about designer babies that they talked about on the news. They were able to some way get rid of the genes where this baby would have inherited cancer from its father, because the father has cancer that runs in the family, so they were able to somehow come up with a way to get these genes out of the body, even though we know cancer is, a lot of times it has to do with diet and nutrition.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. That was a lot of comments, and I have no comments on the comments because you already commented. This one is very interesting.
I wanted to ask about the trench coat that she mentioned.
Oh, on the, I don't know what happened to the picture. It's not in here. Probably down in my desk somewhere. And so, unfortunately, that's what happened to it. But yes, that's a long story, too. We covered that entirely. But just to surmise and summate it, the movie, of course, Matrix, when the one trying to become the one and starts on the journey of the one, he comes in with this big trench coat on, and all these utensils are there, and of course he can go to the Tapsaki and karate and all the martial arts, and he goes and levitates, and of course that started this whole, what is it now, the praying mantis, flying dragon, what is it? This new one again. Anyway, the point is that in that one, that picture, when they just blammed it, and they held it there for about 5 seconds, and then you analyze it. Then they stopped it, he did a little thing, and he opened it again. that signaled seemingly some kind of implant or brainwashing amongst a lot of teenagers. And it especially triggered the thing in Columbine, who came out with black trench coats and did their dastardly deeds in the black trench coats. And if you remember again, the son that was involved there was a police commissioner or somebody's son, and had been going to have secret meetings and all going on. Nothing is like it seems now. I wouldn't even want to get into that, but this new thing with McVeigh, who didn't blow up anything, you know. But now they're going to kill him, and instead of opening up all these FBI records now, so let me see all the stuff they buried and all that stuff, and kill him anyway. You know, when Ashcroft came in there, he was a dead man. So, this thing, it's insane what people take on this planet. But the more insanity is, you probably have about 5 million people controlling 8 billion. And that's all it is, about 5 billion. 5 million people. But we go by the rules of law, and they have no laws that they cannot change. What did they say to Dred Scott?
Has
So,
no rights to the right man's
what did they say?
recognize.
Since I'm from Pennsylvania, I wanted to know more about Pennsylvania, the area, Pennsylvania leading into Ohio. And you said to avoid that area, that historically the Native Americans would tell you to avoid that area. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I tried to do so. I probably didn't make myself too clear. There is moss underneath a lot of the Pennsylvania, Ohio area. I said about 150 miles. That might be an underestimate. That whole area there seemingly either was the host of an ancient atomic explosion or something there really poisoned that area around into there. And just like they talked about, the Gulf of Mexico has been flooded and so on again. Like there's something happened there. Whatever, it's stated by many of the Native Americans, and so that area is full of monsters, flying creatures, what they call gingwins. That there are whole areas there. There was an ammunition dump there the U.S. Army used at one time. The hills that are there are replete with all kind of legends of things that go bump in the night if you would. And the area there, the vibrations are just poor. I'm sorry, I know you live there, but they really are.
Exactly.
What can I tell you? And of course, and now, you know, where is it? Mount Weather is in Virginia?
Virginia.
Yeah. Mount Weather, which is also another interesting place, again, where they've got all these things underneath the, you know, report from Iron Mountain talked about when they started with MD12 and all this kind of thing. So it's just kind of a bad news area, but don't feel bad. Most of the United States is becoming a bad news area. If you heard what we talk about the Colorado River and all the things that they're hiding about, what is that? The place that feeds off in the east that's contaminated, going to Ohio River?
I get the,
Sledge.
there's a river, small river in Inez, Kentucky, where they had a coal slurry spill. That's when they dig in the coal mines, and they have these retention ponds of the waste products from the coal mines. Well, the dam burst, and all of that sludge got into the small river, and it was afraid it was going to go into the Ohio River. And it's been an ecological disaster because it just basically suffocated all the wildlife in the water. Of course, they're not talking about that.
Yeah, and they also said it would never make the Ohio River. It never ended there. But they did the same thing with the Colorado River. And one of the problems now with California is the Colorado River.
Radiation.
Radiation.
The nuclear waste that was stored next to the Colorado River has been leaking into the Colorado River. And that river services most of Southern California as well as Utah and Arizona. And they think it's very hot. They think it's radioactive.
And of course, the people in California, and if they're not smart, they haven't been warned about all the radioactivity in the water. It's, as I say, we're at a question now. I think everything is beginning to point to that. Those who have eyes know why.
I have a question. I got big money. Where can I get more information about the Ohio/Pennsylvania area? Those types of ancient legends and traditions and whatnot. Where can I get that information? About the
There's a
game
book called Mysterious Fires and Lights, if you can still get it. I don't know the idea of the given number. There is one, The Silver Bridge by Gray Barker, if you can get it. Those are two that just come to mind right there.
Okay. What about the Cahokia?
Cahokia, you can go, if you go down to State Park or write the Illinois Division of Tourism, and so they'll send you up some stuff about that. But of course, now when you get into the legends, you have to go to the Native Americans for that.
Right.
And I don't know what
You can also try the internet and do a global search on some of these subjects, and it'll pull up a lot of information that way. You can use Google's, or Google's I think is the best search engine right now.
And dog pile was pretty cool.
Yeah. Googles. That's a search engine. It's one of the biggest and best ones on there. Googles. That's a search engine on the internet. It's very good. Very good.
I know it's a whole other lecture, Dr. Blair, but is there anywhere in the world, if you I know this is a whole other lecture, so I don't expect you to elaborate long on this, but if the United States in general is becoming sort of the place not to be, is there a place in the world, in terms of geography and spirituality, that is better than another to be located at this time in an incarnation?
Since everybody's laughing, what do you think your answer is?
I think everybody want to know the answer.
You ready? Okay. In the world, yes, not on the world.
Heard that.
Let's just make some comments.
A couple of comments. Going back to the Lake Michigan question someone asked. We were talking about this the other night, a circle. And in the Sunday Chicago Tribune last week, there was a cover story on these retaining wall structures that they're building on Lake Michigan right now. And I got interested in it because the first 10 or 12 years that I moved to Chicago, I lived in Hyde Park. So the story was about a lot of different citizens that live in Hyde Park that got together to protest the design of this retention facility. They've already built, they're getting a lot of this money from the Army Corps of Engineers at Belmont Harbor, which is the not North Chicago, but the northern part of the city on the lakefront. They've already constructed this the structure. It's a steel and concrete structure. It's this big, huge concrete berm. I mean, it's giant. And they said they spent about $300 million on this. And then there's this steel kind of structure that goes out beyond that. Well, once they started building it, it was interesting enough, that wasn't the original structure they were going to build. But people thought that aesthetically it wasn't going to look good, so they got them to change the structure. They got the city of Chicago to put more money into it. But when they saw what it actually would look like, they were horrified. Some of the people that got together in Hyde Park, some of them, one of them was a marathon swimmer that swims a lot at the Point. You people know where the Point is within Chicago, 63rd. The geologists, oceanographers. There's a lot of very educated people that know a little bit about that. They were claiming that the structure was way over designed, that it was designed for a 200-year flood event. And we talked a lot about that the other night. A 200-year event would be something so catastrophic that it probably would flood all the way to Halstead Avenue, all the way to Halstead. So there was this talk that it might have been over-designed. And so then we sort of kind of theorized that maybe it's not so much that the lake is low now, but maybe it's going to be much higher in the future. And I also wanted to tell people that in the middle of July, Haley Joel Osment, that's the name I couldn't think of before, the young actor that played in the movie When He Saw Dead People, he's going to be starring in a new movie called Artificial Intelligence. I just saw the advertisement just today, where there's going to be this whole population of artificial intelligent beings, and they're going to be the only ones that will be able to survive on this planet. So you might want to check that out. It seems kind of interesting.
Okay. All right, that's kind of, let me, hold on a second. Marge,
Yes.
kill it for a second, please.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go back to it, and you'll be able to ask your question again. I want to make some of you leaving, some of you already asked me some questions again. First of all, if you choose to, there's a lot of refreshments, some of which I think is very good. Number two, I think it was last week or week before last or something, we went dancing over there at the Hilton. Somebody twisted our arm, pulled our leg. Don't do that to me, you're going to lose a monster. Folks that went with me, did they lose a monster? Some folks have asked about that again this evening. You don't have to be overdressed to go there again. They go in shirts and sweater, blouses and skirts, shorts, whatever you want. People ask about going there. According to my dear wife, if she's up to it or not, then we may be going over there this evening. It's a little dance program, it's nice. So for those who asked that, for those who came from out of town, if you want to spend a few hours with us there, it starts at 8:30, goes on to 1. Then we'll convene here and we can go from there and whatever you want to like. That will answer that question. Number two, for those of you who came in late, you buy 5 tapes, you get 1 free. But the tapes on the table are reduced in price, $5 off of each tape. Okay? So that's, again, they're the ones on the table. We'll also have the products for sale, and again, remember that the offer is you buy the Heart Miracle, you can get the other, again, for $10 off. And, of course, the other products are there. We also mail. We send COD from around the world and like that. So, again, if you want to start eating out, if you have to leave, then fine. If you have a few more questions, I only want to take about 3 more, then kind of as you're getting up to get food, or if you want to wait in line again, then kind of defer to the person that's also asking. Okay, Marcia, let me know when you're ready to start it back up again. You can always warm it up here too, can't you, on the stove top, Marcia?
Yeah, it's already warm.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
All right, questions or comments, if you will.
I have a question about the St. Louis art. Is it art or is it art? What do you call it?
I think that's actually an arch, because the St. Louis Arch does look just like that picture. Like this, and this is it. But it's, the structure of it is so mysterious and everything else again. So whatever it is, if it's facing again St. Louis, or if it's facing away from St. Louis toward Illinois, and you got somewhere someplace else, that would be an excellent portal to go to. And since a lot of things are now coming in and out of that body of the river there, the Mississippi, it's interesting. They must be doing something there, if you will. So, okay.
No, this is just a comment that...
I should have said dancing.
I
should have said dancing. I'm sorry.
This is just a comment that nowadays, every summer, I don't know, just for the past several summers, over at the Jackson Street Beach, okay, you get a couple of days, there's too much bacteria, you can't get in the beach, and then, okay, all of a sudden, only 24 or 15 hours later, okay, you can jump into the water. And of course, this never happens on the north side, at the north side beach. It's really interesting. This bacteria, this has never happened before.
Okay, good comment again. All right. Any other questions, statements, or comments? Only if it's really burning and you want it on to add to the flavor, if you would. Okay, let me thank all of you for attending the session here at the Metacenter. I hope it's not your last one. I hope again that you'll try to get the other 2 in this series of T's. I appreciate, of course, all concern, and the more you do that, the better I'm able to make it without going back to the system. Right? I want to thank you for that. For those of you who have listened on tape, and this is probably a 3-taper, I hope that you enjoyed the discussion as well as the subject, and you can contact us at the Metacenter by simply writing 1448 East 52nd Street, Chicago 60615, Illinois. That's the Metacenter, 1448 East 52nd Street, Chicago 60615, Illinois. Or you can phone us at 773-643-5053. That's 773-643-5053. Thank you for your purchase. We hope the Creator blesses you real good.